friction causing corrosion. Because of this stringent weight limitation of aircraft structures, parts and components cannot be designed so that they are heavier than is dictated by the requirement of mechanical strength. Thus, any loss of strength through corrosion damage is more critical than in other forms of transport. Aircraft parts should therefore be manufactured, protected and assembled so that corrosion is unlikely to occur, and after entering service, every precaution should be taken to preserve the original finish. Cleaning and inspections and when necessary deep protection are essential at frequent intervals throughout the working lives of all components and parts. Now, in this basic factor of material and assembly, the following factors are important as a guide to the prevention of corrosion. Now, first is selection of material. As material specification used in initial construction or for subsequent repair are chosen by the manufacturer, who should make resistance to corrosion a factor in selecting the appropriate specification. Maintenance responsibility is normally limited to ensuring that all instructions for handling, storage, heat treatment, assembly and protections are correctly carried out, and that a close watch is maintained for signs of incipient corrosion. Now, number 2 is dissimilar metals. The contact of dissimilar metal, which occurs in many parts of aircraft structures and is most accessory components, is always likely to be prevented by maintaining protective or insulating layers between the metal surfaces. It should be remembered that parts to the same material specification may have a relative difference in potential if their heat treatment states are different, and thus in some circumstances should be separated by joining compound etc., as though they were dissimilar metals. Some examples of dissimilar metal contacts are quoted in number A. Steel bolts through aluminum alloy spars and structural members. Number B. Steel brake components secured to magnesium alloy wheels. Number C. Parts made of brass, steel, tungsten, etc., such as clip or brackets attached to aluminum alloy structural members. Number D. Aluminum alloy skin panels riveted to extruded stringers. Number E. Steel levers, shafts and gears housed in casting of light alloy. Now, number 3, heat treatment. Incorrect heat treatment may lower the corrosion resistance of the material treated. Thus, it is essential that all heat treatment should be applied strictly in accordance with approved specifications. The corrosion resistance of high strength aluminum alloy is affected by the cooling of this is rapid. Their susceptibility to intergranular corrosion is reduced, provided that log-lug quenching stresses are afterwards relieved. Note: heat is sometimes applied to structural parts for purposes other than the development of particular mechanical properties of the metal. Example: when metal to metal joints are bonded by thermosetting synthetic resins under the influence of heat and pressure. Since heat treatment of this kind is not always covered by official specification, close adherence to the aircraft manufacturer's instruction is essential to ensure that the corrosion resistance and other properties of the metal are not impaired. Now, number 4, welding. Welded joints are sometimes subject to corrosion because the heated strip has been rendered anodic to the surrounding metals, but the danger can be greatly reduced by the exercise of skill and care. It should be remembered that the fluxes used in welding are often corrosive, and hence all reduces from fluxes should be thoroughly cleaned off immediately after welding. Some stainless steel are particularly susceptible to intergranular attack in the welded region or weld decay in bracket, although the likelihood of this can be reduced if the part is annealed after welding or if the steel contains stabilizing elements such as titanium or niobium. Inert gas welding processes which do not require flux are sometimes used when the removal of flux would be difficult. Now fretting. This type of corrosion we have read earlier also. Now here more for about this type of corrosion which can have serious consequences as it reduces the fatigue strength of the structure. It occurs when parts are bolted tightly together and yet slipped tightly on one another during flexing of another movements of aircraft parts. The heating caused by friction promotes oxidation of steel parts and the oxide is then rubbed off to form dust, frequently described as cocoa. Fretting of aluminum alloy produces a black oxide. Structural assembly bolts should be inspected to ensure that the protective treatment plating is intact and should be assembled within the stipulated stock loading limits and in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. Now stress. Metal under stress generally corrode more rapidly than unstressed metals. The influence of stress on the development of intergranular corrosion is mentioned earlier. Corrosion that is continuing on parts under repeated stress is very much harmful than corrosion for the same length of time without stress and can lead to rapid failure of the part from fatigue. In many cases, stress corrosion cracks have resulted from initial heats in the surface. Now high temperature. Parts which become heated in service such as brake drums, combustion chambers and exhaust pipe tend to oxidize more rapidly than unheated parts. The tendency is reduced if the parts are made from alloys containing nickel or chromium. Although the corrosive effects of the sulfur present in the exhaust gases may still do harm to heated engine parts. Electrical equipment. Next, fault in the insulation of electrical equipment which led to current leakage can cause the equipment itself to corrode and can encourage electrochemical attack in the surrounding structure. Insulation should therefore be carefully tested always. Sparkling in confined spaces will produce nitric acid in the presence of moisture and this acid will then attack the surrounding material. Nitric acid attack can be prevented by ensuring that the vents of such equipment as magnetos are kept clean so as to permit the escape of the oxide of nitrogen evolved. Certain insulating materials give off vapors which are corrosive. Example, phenolic resin bonded insulating materials give off vapors which corrode cadmium plate. Now the number is this which I am going to describe: factors due to environment and operation. Corrosion can arise from many circumstances, some of which are unavoidable but many of which can be anticipated and controlled. When conditions that create corrosion are an inevitable accompaniment of storage of operation, the only safeguard is adequate maintenance. In this, number one is damage to protective coatings. Metallic surfaces protected by chemical films, metal plating or organic coatings may suffer severe attack if the protected coat is physically damaged. Some protective coatings are susceptible to attack from certain types of lubricants, de-icing fluids or hydraulic fluids, but this danger can be reduced by selecting protectives that are specifically resistant to the less handling and abrasion from grit or water striking the aircraft at high speed. can provide starting points of corrosion. At high speed, less handling and abrasion from grit or water striking can provide start points for corrosion. But the seriousness of such defects depends on the materials affected. Thus, the aluminum alloy sheet clad with pure aluminum is not much harmed by minor scratches, since the aluminum cladding provides sacrificial protection. On the other hand, chromium plated steel will rust readily if the chromium is damaged. Now, number 2 is surface defects. Corrosion may arise from particles of foreign metals such as rolling mills, scale, or emery particles, which are embedded in the surface. Particularly care is necessary after such operation is filing, grinding, or abrasive grit blasting to ensure that all particles are completely removed. A high polish is given to some components to enable them to resist attack, and this resistance will be lowered if polished surfaces are roughened or scored. Number 3 is crevice corrosion. Intense corrosion is often found where non-conducting materials such as plastic, glass, wood, or upholstery are in contact with metal. A similar effect may occur in inaccessible corners formed in metal parts. In such places, oxygen is replenished less quickly than elsewhere, with the result that the crevice is rendered anodic to the surface outside and is therefore subject to electrochemical attack. It follows that the contact of metals or non-conductors should be treated like the contact of dissimilar metals, and that all enclosed regions in aircraft structures should be vented and drained as adequately as possible. Ventilation also helps to prevent the accumulation of condensed moisture and discourage the growth of molds and bacteria, which can also promote corrosion. Now, the marine corrosion. The salt present in the seawater will attack many metals directly. Land planes may be affected by airborne particles or spray droplets. Whilst amphibians require constant attention to keep them free from the salt deposited by evaporated spray. If trapped in the aircraft structure, seawater will provide a particularly active electrolyte for electrochemical action. Hulls are sometimes damaged because of the voluminous character of the corrosion products precipitated in crevices. As the material accumulates, plates may be burst and rivets fractured. The inside of the chain members were the side bulging and rivets fractured. The inside of the chain members were the side seating joints. The planing bottom is particularly vulnerable to corrosion because of its moisture trapping shape. Now, number 5, fuel oils and other liquids. Although petroleum products contain sulfur compound and organic acid, they do not usually corrode fuel tanks, pipeline, etc. because of the resistant nature of the material from which their items are made. The danger of corrosion chiefly arises from the water content of oil and fuels. The water acts as an electrolyte to promote combination with oxygen dissolved in the oil or fuel. This effect is most pronounced with loaded petrol and light alloy tanks containing such fuels should be protected with inhibitor cartridges. Careful inspections of the external surface as well as the internal structure of the keel areas, particularly of pressurized aircraft, is necessary due to condensation and spillage from toilet and gallery installations. Battery acids, de-icing fluids, disinfectants, water methanol spillage, and urine can be taken to wash off any these fluids which may be split. Integral fuel tanks should be designed to give good water collections and drainage. Water in aviation kerosene. Next is water in aviation kerosene may cause serious corrosion within the fuel system. It may be saline or brackish, which with other contaminants such as iron oxide, microbiological organisms may have very serious effects. Note: all aviation fuel absorb moisture from the air, and the amount of dissolved water contained varies with the temperature of the fuel. When the temperature of the fuel decreases, some of the dissolved water comes out of the solution and falls to the bottom of the tank. When the temperature of the fuel increases, water is drawn from the atmosphere to maintain a saturation solution. Changes in the temperature therefore result in a continuous accumulation of water. Factors affecting corrosion. Many factors affect the type, speed, cause and seriousness of metal corrosion. Some of these factors can be controlled and some cannot. Climate. The environmental condition under which an aircraft is maintained and operated greatly affect corrosion characteristics. In a predominantly marine environment, in bracket with exposure to sea water and salt, or in bracket close, moisture-laden air is considerably more detrimental to an aircraft than it would be if all operations were conducted in a dry climate. Temperature considerations are important because the speed of electrochemical attack is increased in a hot, moist climate. Now, in this, number 2 is size and type of metal. It is well known fact that some metals will corrode faster than others. It is less known fact that variations in size and shape of a metal can indirectly affect its corrosion resistance. Thick structural sections are more susceptible to corrosive attack than thin sections because variation in physical characteristics are greater. When large pieces are machined or chemically milled after heat treatment, the thinner areas will have different physical characteristics than the thicker area. For this, I am giving you a figure. Corrosion control standpoint, the best approach is to recognize the critical nature of the integrity and strength of major structural parts and to maintain permanent protection over such area at all times to prevent the onset of deterioration. Now, foreign material. Among the controllable factors which affect the onset and spread of corrosive attack is foreign material, which adheres to the metal surfaces. Such foreign materials include: number 1 is soil and atmospheric dust, number 2 is oil, grease and engine exhaust residues, number 3 salt water and salt moisture condensation, number 4 spilled battery acids and caustic cleaning solution, number 5 welding and brazing flux residues. It is important that aircraft be kept clean. How often and to what extent an aircraft should be clean depends on several factors such as location, model of aircraft and types of operation. Now I am going to describe the corrosive agents. Corrosive agents are substances that are capable of causing a corrosive reaction. Most commonly they will fall into two categories: acid and alkalis. But we must be careful not to overlook other less obvious corrosive agents. The atmosphere in which the aircraft operates may contain moisture, salt or industrial agents that are corrosives. Now, number 1 is acid and alkalis. Almost all acids and alkalis form effective electrolytes as they react with metals to form metallic salts. But some electrolytes are more active than others. Sulfuric acid, such as is found in aircraft batteries, is especially active in corroding aluminium, while a weak solution of chromic or phosphoric acid may even be used as a surface treatment to prepare metal for painting. Ferrous metals are subject to damage from both acids and alkalis. but aluminium is more vulnerable to strong alkaline solution than it is to acids. Aluminium structure, for instance, can be severely corroded if it is allowed to remain in contact with a concrete floor. Water will draw out through lime from the cement to form an alkaline solution that will corrode the aluminium. Now number 2 is salts. It is very important to remember that many compounds other than sodium chloride (table salt) fall into the category of salts. In general, salts are the result of a metallic element combining with a nominal non-metal. The resulting compound is almost always a good electrolyte and can promote corrosive attack. Magnesium is particularly vulnerable to corrosive attack from an electrolyte formed by salt solution. Number 3, mercury. Although it is not too commonly found in any quantity on aircraft, there is a definite possibility that mercury could be spilled in an airplane. Hazardous cargoes are often carried in aircraft, and damage from a shifting load may result in damaged containers and hazardous spills. Mercury attacks aluminium by chemical reaction known as amalgamation. In this process, the mercury attacks along the grain boundaries within the alloy, and in an exceedingly short time will completely destroy it. Extreme care must be exercised when removing spilled mercury, as it is slippery and will flow through even a tiny crack to get to the lowest part of the structure, where it can cause extensive damage. Not only in mercury damaging to an aircraft structure, but mercury and mercury vapors are also dangerous to people. If mercury is spilled, remove every particle with a vacuum cleaner having a mercury trap in the suction line, or with a rubber suction bulb or medicine dropper. Never attempt to remove mercury by blowing it with compressed air. This will only scatter and spread the damage. Brass control cable turnbuckles barrels are especially susceptible to mercury damage. Any sign of mercury discoloration requires the replacement of the barrel. Now number 4, water. Pure water will react with metals to form corrosion or oxidation, but water holding a concentration of salts or other contaminants will cause much more rapid corrosion. Seaplanes are continually in a battle with the elements, and every precaution must be taken to stay ahead of the formation of corrosion. Seaplanes appearing in salt water are especially vulnerable to attack, and when one is taken out of salt water, it should be hosed down with large volumes of fresh water to get every trace of salt off of the structures. Seaplane ramps are often in areas where there is a concentration of industrial wastage. This makes the water even more corrosive. Float bottoms are subject to the abrasive effect or high velocity water on takeoff and landing. This abrasion tends to damage the natural protective oxide films, and seaplanes must be carefully inspected to detect any damage which would allow water to get to the base metal of the surface. Now, number 5 is air. Naturally, it is impossible to isolate a structure from the air in which it exists, but the very presence of air is a factor in the deterioration of the metal. Marine atmosphere and air above industrial area hold large concentration of salts. The chemicals will precipitate out of the air and collect on the surface of an aircraft, where they will attract moisture from the air. Corrosion then has one of its quite key requisites, an electrolyte. Organics growth. New development bring new problems. For years, water with which condensed in the fuel tanks produce relatively minor corrosion problems. Smaller profound metal containers of potassium dichromate crystals protected the fuel tanks by changing any water into a mild chromic acid solution, which inhibited corrosion. Jet aircraft, however, use fuel with a higher viscosity than gasoline, fuel which holds more water in suspension. They also fly higher than reciprocating engine aircraft and in high altitude, low temperature flight conditions. Water entrained in the fuel will condense out and collect in the bottom of the tanks. To further complicate matters, this water contains microbes which are simply microscopic size plant and animal life. These organic bodies live in the water and feed on the hydrocarbon fuel. The dark insides of the fuel tank promote their growth, and in very short periods of time, these tiny creatures multiply and form a scum inside the tank. The scum, composed of microbes and the water in which they live, covers the bottom of the tank and holds water in contact with the tank structure, where corrosion of the concentration cell type will inevitably form. If the scum forms along the edge of the sealant in the integral fuel tank, the sealant may pull away from the structure, causing a leak and an expensive rescaling operation. It is visually impossible to prevent the formation of the scum as long as microbes are allowed to live in the fuel. The most successful solution of the problems has been to use an additive in the fuel which kills these organic growths and prevents the formation of the corrosion forming scum. In addition to preventing corrosion by its biocidal action, this same fuel addition has the additionally useful function of serving as an antifreeze to prevent the freezing of the water entrained in the fuel. Should the water freeze, the resulting slush should plug the fuel screen and cause fuel starvation. Maintenance. Much has been done to improve the corrosion resistance of aircraft. Improvement in materials, surface treatments, insulation and protective finishes. All of these have been aimed at reducing maintenance effort as well as improving reliability. In spite of these improvements, corrosion and its control is a very real problem that requires continuous preventive maintenance. Corrosion preventive maintenance includes the following specific functions. Number 1 is an adequate cleaning. Number 2 is thorough periodic lubrication. Number 3 is detailed inspection for corrosion and failure of protective systems. Number 4 is prompt treatment of corrosion and touch-up of damaged paint area. Number 5 is keeping drain holes and free of obstructions. Number 6 is daily draining of fuel cell slumps. Number 7, daily wipe down of exposed critical areas. Number 8, sealing of aircraft against water during fall weather and proper ventilation on warm sunny days. Number 9, making maximum use of protective covers on parked aircraft. After any period during which regular corrosion preventive maintenance is interrupted, the amount of maintenance required to repair accumulated corrosion damage and bring the aircraft back up to standard will usually be quite high. 1. Cleanliness. A clean polished surface does not provide good place for corrosion to start, but dirt, grease or a partially broken paint film will hold electrolyte in contact with the surface of the metal and will promote corrosion. Airplanes should be kept clean and mixed with a good emulsion type cleaner will remove the dirt, film and industrial contaminants such attract moisture to the surface. It is especially important that the inside of the airplane be kept clean with particular attention paid to the areas where moisture is most likely to collect. All drain openings must be kept open and deposit will have formed from the engine exhaust must be removed before they cake on the surface. Avoid damage to aircraft by not using harmful cleaning, polishing, brightening or paint removing materials. Use only those compounds which conform to exist government or established industries specification or products that have been specifically recommended by the aircraft manufacturer as being satisfactory for the intended application. Observe the proper manufacturer's recommendations concerning use of their agent. Chemical cleaners must be used with great care in cleaning assembled aircraft. The damper of cleaning entrapping corrosion material in fairing surface and crevices counteracts an advantage in their speed and effectiveness. Use materials which are relatively neutral and easy to remove. Number 2. Corrosion inhibiting film. Ferrous metals are susceptible to corrosion damage because they form porous oxide which allow moisture and oxygen to enter and remain in contact with the base metal. To prevent this coating of metal which forms a continuous non-porous oxide, film is plated or sprayed on the sprayed on the surface of the steel. Cadmium or zinc are both less noble (more corrosive) than steel and will be the one to corrode when the two are covered by an electrolyte. The oxides of both of these metals are non-porous and will prevent oxygen reaching the steel, thus protecting it. Aluminium alloy corrode easily because of the electrode potential difference between the alloying agents and the aluminium that pure aluminium combines with oxygen in the air to form a non-porous oxide film which excludes oxygen and moisture from the base metal and prevents further action. In order to have the strength of an alloy with a corrosion resistance of pure aluminum, a thin coating of pure aluminum may be rolled onto the surface of the alloy. If the slight loss of strength caused by cladding is not desirable, unclad aluminum alloy may be protected by an electrolytically deposited or a chemically formed non-porous oxide film. This film, in addition to protecting the metal, forms a good base for paint. Magnesium alloys are protected in the same way as aluminum by the use of a non-porous film produced either electrolytically or chemically. Corrosion forms where the film has been disrupted at such places as rivet holes, skin edges or scratches in the surface, and a good protective coating of paint is vital for the exclusion of oxygen or moisture from the surface. Dissimilar metal insulation. It is often required that different metals be held in contact with each other. When in this case, dissimilar metal or galvanic corrosion can take place. In order to minimize this danger, the areas to be joined can be sprayed with 2 coats of zinc chromate primer, and a strip of pressure-sensitive vinyl tape can be placed between the surface before they are assembled. I am giving a chart to go through. This is the metal combination requiring a protective separator. The separating materials may be metal primer, aluminum tape, washers, grease or sealant depending on the metals involved. Now in this A. Fasteners. When steel fasteners are used in a aluminum structures and are subjected to corrosive environment, the holes should be drilled and countersunk, treated with a conversion coating material. Such as iodine, and then primed with zinc chromate. The bolts or screws should be coated with the primer and installed while they are wet. This treatment does not ensure a completely insulated joint, but it does exclude moisture. Now in this B, skin lapse joints. In any joint between dissimilar metal skins, especially care must be taken to see that there is no good conductive path between the metals. After the skins have been cut to size, fitted and drilled, coat each fairing surface with at least one coat of zinc chromate primer. Allow the primer to dry completely between each coat and attach the skin with rivets be wet with primer. If one of the skins is made of magnesium, at least 2 coats of a zinc chromate primer should be applied to each surface, and a strip of 3 mm (0.003 inch) thick pressure sensitive vinyl tape applied between the fairing surface. If for reason of high temperature or relatively motion between the skins, this tape is impractical, a couple of additional coats of zinc chromate primer should be used. Dip the rivets in zinc chromate and drive them while they are wet. Now C, sealers and sealants. The higher speeds reached with modern aircraft have brought out requirements for aerodynamic sealers used to fare the edges of skins on the wing surfaces. Airplanes flying at high altitudes require that the cabin be pressurized, so every place where plumbing or electrical wiring passes through a bulkhead, these openings must be sealed with some of the plastic sealer. Integral fuel tanks are actually a part of the wing structure, and every rivet joint must be sealed to prevent the fuel leaking. Electrical connectors are coated or sealed with a special sealer to prevent water entering the plug and causing the terminals to corrode, which would cause intermittent electrical contact. All of these sealers have specific requirements and are used for unique operating conditions. When replacing any sealer, be very sure to use exactly the same materials as was originally used, or a substitute specially approved by the airframe manufacturers. These materials are usually of the 2-component type, having one container of resin and one of the accelerator of catalyst. The mixing sequence, proportions, time and temperature must be rigidly adhered to, otherwise there is likely to be a poor bond between the sealer and the metal. When a repair is made, every trace of the old sealer must be removed and the surface prepared for the new sealer. Clean the surface with the recommended cleaner and remove every trace of fuel, oil and fingerprints. Apply the new sealer and feather the edges down exactly as the instructions specify. This type of material is critical and has no tolerance for careless work or methods of application which are not recommended. The control of corrosion. The following paragraphs relate to care and maintenance under operating condition. Now 1. In cleaning, as we have described earlier in this text, it cannot be too strong emphasized. The frequent cleaning is essential for the prevention of corrosion. During takeoff and landing, aircraft are splashed with mud and water. During flight, engine oil and exhaust products are deposited on parts of the structure, and at all times contamination by atmospheric dirt is likely to occur. Now 1. Metal skin structure should be washed down thoroughly using solutions, materials and equipments which are recommended by the aircraft manufacturer. Non-flammable decreasing cleaners for aluminum alloys are available in powder form. They should be applied with bristle brush, care being taken to remove all dirt from odd corners, panel edges, screw and rivet heads, etc. If deterioration of protective treatments or sign of corrosion are revealed by cleaning, the affected parts should be treated as. We will go for that. Further, cleaning preparation should be washed off with cold water after they have loosened the dirt, and the parts should be dried thoroughly before restoring any protective treatments. Note, there are certain proprietary cleaners which, although harmless to metals, are included in not fabric and other textile materials. It follows that care should be taken to prevent them from wetting fabric or upholstery. Transport plastics can also be damaged by cleaning chemicals and should therefore be suitably protected. For these guidelines, will go in coming video. Now, number 2, all the intervals specified in the approved maintenance schedule, marine aircraft should be beached and hosed down with fresh water. The bulges should be drained and flushed through with fresh water at the same time. Care should be taken that all deposits of salt and marine growths are removed from both the inside and outside of the aircraft, and that all damage to protective coatings is made good. All submerged parts of the hull and float should then be sprayed with liquid lanolin, pigmented lanolin or seaplane varnish. The spraying being continued to approximately 0.6 meter, that is 2 feet above the water line. Now 3, where battery or other acids have been spilled, the surroundings should be rinsed with generous quantity of clean water to dilute and remove the acid. The affected part should then be brushed with a dilute solution of sodium bicarbonate for lead acid batteries and dilute acetic acid for nickel cadmium batteries to neutralize any remaining electrolyte. After this has remained on the surface for a few minutes, the area should again be washed with water, finally wiped dry and protective treatments restored. Note in this, in cases where spillage of acid or heavy concentration of battery fumes (example due to runaway battery) have occurred, which are not contained within a known area, it may be necessary to dismantle parts of the surrounding structure to ensure the effective removal of all traces of electrolyte. Now 4, high octane fuels which are doped with tetraethyl lead and ethylene dibromide produce lead bromide when burnt. This is ejected in the exhaust deposit, should be removed by using detergents or emulsifiable cleaners, which will not soften the underlying paint coat. Where possible, all apertures at wing root joints, etc. should be sealed to exclude exhaust gases from the inside of the structure. But if the gases do penetrate, internal cleaning will also be necessary. If the deposits are so hardened that they will not yield to normal cleaning, a paper stripper should be applied using a high pressure jet of water or rubbing with a damp rag. The stripper and paint can be removed together. Afterwards, the clean area must be reprotected, which we will go in further video how it is reprotected. Now note, paint strippers containing methylene dichloride or ethylene dichloride can seriously reduce the strength of resin bonded joints, and hence an aircraft on which processes such as redox bonding have been used should only be cleaned with strippers which are recommended for the purpose by the aircraft manufacturer. Information on acceptable materials, if not in the appropriate manual, is normally available in service bulletin published by the manufacturer service department. Now number 5. Although accumulation of oil and grease may not in themselves be corrosive, they tend to retain dirt and metal particles to damage surface finishes and prevent inspection for cracks, etc. They should be removed from such parts as the landing gear and engine nacelles by means of solvents or emulsifiable cleaners. The cleaning agents recommended by the aircraft manufacturer should always be used. Note: it is important that the cleaning fluids specified by the manufacturers are used in the strength recommended and in application where their use has been specified. Cases have arisen where cleaning fluids in combination with kerosene have had a deleterious effect on aircraft structure. The penetrating qualities of kerosene promoting seepage into skin joints. Such cases are particularly troublesome and it becomes difficult to diagnose the cause of corrosion. Also, unspecified cleaning fluids might contaminate or destroy jointing compounds, bonding adhesive or sealing mediums. Number 6. Wrong methods of cleaning can do more harm than good. The following points should be noted. Number A. Steel wool should not be used on aluminum alloy or magnesium alloy surfaces, as particles may be lodged in creative or embedded in organic coatings and so provide starting points for electrochemical attack. B. Aluminum clad light alloy sheets should not normally be polished with mechanical buffing wheels except under a careful control technique. This will remove the coatings of pure aluminum and the unprotected alloy core will be subjected to corrosion. Number C. Dirt and swath should not be washed or brushed inside the structure where particles may be trapped behind stringers, frames, etc. In brackets, trapped water can do more damage than the dirt. Interior cleaning should be done with an efficient vacuum cleaner. D. Pressure cleaning should be used with caution, particularly where bearings are in use. Steam cleaning should only be used when specified, for it can penetrate joints and leave water residues. Inspection for corrosion is a continuous problem and should be handled on a daily basis. Overemphasizing a particular corrosion problem when it is covered and then forgetting about corrosion until the next crisis is an unsafe, costly and troublesome practice. Most scheduled maintenance checklists are complete enough to cover all parts of the aircraft or engine, and no part of the aircraft should go unchecked. Use this checklist as a general guide when an area is to be inspected for corrosion. Through experience, it will learn the most aircraft have trouble areas when corrosion will set in despite routine inspection and maintenance. In addition to routine maintenance inspection, amphibians or seaplanes should be checked daily and critical areas cleaned or treated as necessary. So in this, every precaution must be taken to ensure that all corrosion is detected in early stages. Corrosion cannot always be found by visual examination alone, and one of the methods of non-destructive examination such as radiological examination. However, corrosion tends to blister paint and its presence can be suspected in the paint flakes of well present. In the inspection for the detection of corrosion, we will go for the different processes beside radiological examination of NDT. Further, after this, going inspection. After this, in this series only, inspection. Number 1. At the time specified on the approved maintenance schedule and wherever the aircraft has been subjected to especially corrosive condition, the inside and outside of the structure should be thoroughly examined. The upholstery and floor coverings should be removed and all access panels should be opened to facilitate inspection. With a strong light, a detailed examination should be made of the spars, ribs, frames, bulkheads, stringers, etc. Particular attention should be given to poorly vented regions and to places where dampness and condensation are apparent or suspected. Strontium chromate inhibitor pellets are sometimes used in areas where water accumulators and the condensation of such inhibitors should be assessed. The satisfactory addition of sealant fillets and paint work should also be verified. In this, special attention should be given to parts the fuselage where condensation may tend to collect. Considerable condensation will occur on the inner structure of pressure cabin structures. Water will run up down the cabin wall structures, and this will tend to start corrosion in the lower parts of the structure. Number B. Inspection should be special attention to such areas and particularly to the faying surfaces between stringers and skin, where moisture may remain trapped and promote corrosion. In some cases, it may be necessary to dismantle parts of the structure to ensure adequate inspection. Note: on some type of aircraft operating under widely different conditions, recent investigations have revealed the presence of serious corrosion which has removed undetected in parts of the structure. In some instances, it has been shown that normal methods of inspection and radiological examination were inadequate, and dismantling, particularly of pressurized skin structures, was therefore necessary. Now 2. Where evidence of surface corrosion exists, the extent of pitting or explosion should be tested with a fine needle. Whenever possible, the strength of all suspect rivets should be tested by applying a moderate shear load of the rivet head. The remedial action to be taken will depend on the depth and extent of the attack and the thickness and function of the affected parts, but any areas where rivets fail must obviously be repaired in accordance with the appropriate repair manual. Elsewhere, if the attack is not serious, the corrosion can be cleaned off and the part is reprotected. We will go for this in another video, how it is reprotected and how it is protection is done. Now, but any intergranular or widespread surface corrosion will be necessary repair by removal of the damaged area. Now, number 3. Assessment of the condition of parts subjected to high temperatures is not easy, but as a general rule, discoloration and light scaling are normally acceptable. In bracket, light scale sometimes protects the metal from further attack, whilst heavy scale is an indication that the strength of the metal has been reduced. However, the majority of exhaust systems fitted to aero engines are manufactured from stainless steel or Inconel, and visual examination of these components is often misleading. This is because those parts of the system which are subjected to the highest temperature will, after extensive period in service, suffer from intergranular corrosion. If undetected, this is obviously dangerous and may constitute a fire hazard, but detection is possible by measurement of magnetic permeability. A rough check for this condition can be made with a small horseshoe magnet. The component under examination being rejected if the magnet shows any tendency to adhere to it, but sensitive instrument which measures the relative magnetic permeability should be used whenever possible. The guidance of the manufacturer should be followed when assessing the condition of particular exhaust system. Now 4. It is wise precaution to remove a sample number of key assembly bolts during major inspection. Care being taken to ensure that different bolts are removed at each inspection. Bolts securing engine mountings, wings and empennage attachment bolts and undercarriage assembly bolts should be examined for signs of fretting corrosion. The bolt holes are surrounding material should be inspected for integral penetration and fatigue cracks by the methods. Note: this would only be done by skilled person with the appropriate jigs and assembly equipment. Now number 5. It should be remembered that metal tubes may corrode internally as well as externally. Sealed tubes which have been protected internally before assembly should not cause concern, but open-ended tubes can accumulate moisture. Guidance on the inspection and the protection of tubes we will go for in next video, in coming video. Now number 6. Visual examination for corrosion is one of the most essential aspects of the inspection and is necessary on all components, pipelines, control cables, electrical equipment, instruments, etc. For further information on the inspection of particular systems and components, reference should be made to the appropriate manual and the other CAIP leaflets dealing with the system concerned. Here I am going to give you for the non-destructive test for the detection of corrosion, but we will go for the further chapters or further section of the video for the LDT. But here I am going for the detection of corrosion. Now number 1 is visual inspection. Exotic inspection equipment is often needed for certain parts of an aircraft to make the work of the aircraft technician more efficient. But a well-trained eye is still the more effective tool for inspection. Corrosion can often be detected by careful visual inspection of the airplane structure. Corrosion of aluminum or magnesium appears as a white or grey powder along the edges of the skin and around rivet heads. Small blister appearing under the finish or finished painted surface is an indication of corrosion. Examine the lap joints in the skin for bulges which indicate the presence of corrosion between the fairing surfaces. Corrosion salts have more volume than sound aluminum and will push out against the skin. The complex structure of modern aircraft makes the use of magnifying glasses, mirrors, borescopes, fiber optics and other optical inspections tools. Temperature for a good visual inspection. Now number 2. Dye penetrant inspection. Stress corrosion cracks are sometimes difficult, if not impossible, to detect the visual inspection alone, but they may be found by the use of a dye penetrant inspection. This inspection method is effective on both ferrous and non-ferrous metals and on non-porous plastics. The procedure used in dye penetrant inspection consists of spraying a penetrating liquid on the surface to be inspected. The liquid has a very low surface tension and will seep deep into any crack that extends to the surface. The penetrant is left on the surface long enough to penetrate all of the cracks, and then the surface is wiped clean. A developer, which is white chalky powder, is sprayed over the surface where it acts as a blotter and draws the penetrant out of any cracks into which it has seeped. The penetrant is usually dyed bright red, and so the cracks appear as red lines on the white surface. Another type of penetrant inspection uses a fluorescent penetrant, which is viewed under an ultraviolet or black light. This special light will cause any crack to appear as a green line on the surface. The main limitation of dye penetrant inspection is the fact that it can fail to find cracks that are so full of corrosion products that the dye cannot penetrate. Also, if the cracks is filled with oil or grease, the penetrant cannot get in, and there will be no indication of a flaw. Porous or rough surfaces are almost impossible to clean off all of the penetrant. So materials with rough surfaces do not lend themselves to this type of inspection. Now number 3 is ultrasonic inspection. One inspection method that is effectively used for corrosion inspection is ultrasonic energy. In this method of inspection, high frequency pulses of energy similar to sound waves only at frequencies far above this audible range are introduced into the airplane structure. There are two types of ultrasonic indication which may be used for corrosion detection. Number 1 is the pulse echo and the number 2 is resonance method. In the pulse echo method, a pulse of ultrasonic energy is directed into the structure by a device known as transducer. This energy travels through the material to the opposite side and then bounces back. When the return pulse is received by the transducer, it is displayed on the screen of a cathode ray oscilloscope as a spike, which establishes a time base representing the thickness of the material. If there is any change in thickness such as may be caused by corrosion, the return will occupy a shorter space and will indicate the extent of damage. If there should be a crack or other flaw within the material such as may be caused by the intergranular corrosion, a second spike will appear on the oscilloscope screen, which indicates the approximate position of the flaw within the material. The second method of inspection using ultrasonic energy is the resonance method. This method operates on the principle that for any given thickness of material, there is a specific frequency of ultrasonic energy that will resonate or produce the greatest amount of return. Variable frequency ultrasonic energy is fed into the transducer and the output is monitored visually with a meter or audibly with a set of headphones. When the resonant frequency is reached, the meter will read the highest values or the tone will be loudest in the phones. If the metal has been eaten away by corrosion, its resonant frequency will be different from that of sound metal, and the meter reading of tone volume will be lower. The resonance method can be used to determine the actual thickness of the material by calibrating the probe with a test specimen of the same type material being tested. Ultrasonic inspection must be conducted by a person highly qualified and equipped for this procedure. False returns can easily disguise a fault, and many special transducers are needed for the different locations to be inspected. Ultrasonic inspection is primarily a good method of inspection by comparison. Good skin is measured, and any change in thickness of the skin being inspected may have been caused by corrosion. Further inspection must be made to determine the actual extent of the corrosion indicated by the ultrasonic inspection. Now the next is radiological inspection. Number 4. Like ultrasonic inspection, radiological inspection such as X-ray is used to determine if there is any damage on the inside of the structure. X-ray is a photographic form of inspection in which extremely high frequency pulses of electromagnetic radiation are passed through the structure being inspected. Energy at this frequency has the ability to expose photographic film and as it passes through the structure area of high density, pass less of the radiation energy and therefore expose the film less. After the exposure, the film is developed like any other photographic negative. In areas where the density of the material is greatest, less energy will penetrate, and this area will appear light on the negative. Areas at lower density pass more energy, expose the film more and appear darker. X-ray inspection requires extensive training and experience for proper interpretation of the result. The use of X-ray involves some danger because exposure to the radiation energy used in this process may cause burns, damage to the blood and possibly death. Person around X-ray equipment should wear a radiation monitor film badge which is developed at the end of an exposure time to determine the amount of radiation the wearer has absorbed. A blood should be made periodically for person involved in X-ray inspection. The depth of penetration of X-ray is determined by the amount of power used. The power is normally measured in terms of kilowatts applied to the X-ray tube, and many range from about 8 kilowatts to as high as 200 kilowatts. The lower power application called soft X-rays are used to inspect for corrosion. Next is storage. Aircraft engines and components will deteriorate rapidly when stored unless adequate precautions are taken to protect them from climatic conditions, damp, condensation and accumulation of dust. It should be remembered that conditions suitable for some materials may not suit others. The following information stresses some important factors of good storage. Now, 1. The most suitable environment for storing complete aircraft is a cool, dry hangar with a relative humidity of less than 60%, where the structure is protected from strong sunlight. Rapid changes of temperature, atmospheric impurities of marine or industrial origin, and the erosive effect of blown dust. Before prolonged storage is contemplated, it is advisable where possible to remove all sound insulating and textile materials of a hygroscopic nature. After storage, special attention should be given to parts of the structures which have remained in contact with material of a hygroscopic nature. It should also be noted that damp wood will evolve acids that can be harmful to adjacent metal even though the wood may not be direct contact with it. Now, number 2. Aircraft should be stored in a dry, clean condition. All drains and vents should be clear and unobstructed, and blanks should be fitted to intakes and apertures in which condensation might occur. Colored indication type of silica gel may be used in enclosed spaces to absorb atmospheric moisture. Number 3. Temporary protective such as rust inhibitors and lanolin should be applied to exposed metal surfaces which are likely to corrode. Guidance on the protection of particular aircraft should be obtained from the manufacturer concerned. Number 4. If aircraft have to be stored for a long periods in the open or under detrimental climatic conditions, they should be adequately covered and protected by a special process. Packaging by the application of a plastic film is a satisfactory method, provided every precaution is taken to control the humidity of air inside the protective covering, and an externally visible moisture absorption indicator is used. Number 5. Some of the special precautions necessary to protect engine from corrosion are covered in the separate, which we will go later on. There are numerous precautions with various materials, equipment, and methods of application which are specific for various engine type and insulation. These must be applied strictly in accordance with appropriate manual and related technical documents. Now, number 6, metals held in store should not only be stored under controlled condition but should be protected by a method suitable to the specification and shape of the material. Thus, a coating of lanolin is usually applied to light alloy casting. Whilst sheet and strip light alloy are most effectively safeguarded by spraying them with an approved plastic film onto a pre-oiled surface. Plastic films, which can be peeled off before fabrication, have the added advantage of protecting them against mechanical damage. Now, number 7. Components such as instruments, hydraulic valves, and electrical equipment are usually packaged by the manufacturers and given a guaranteed shelf life. However, it should be remembered that the shelf life is only valid if the storage conditions are suitable. In humid conditions, corrosion may occur even if the packaging appears to be undamaged. The only remedy is periodic inspection, cleaning, and reprotection throughout the shelf life of the component. Number 8. Aircraft engines and components which have been stored for any considerable point should be carefully examined and tested before being put into service. Temporary methods of protection should be removed and all permanent protection should be inspected and rectified as necessary. For further information on storage of condition for aeronautical supplies, we will go for another video.